This week we are talking about low alcohol wines. Now that's not to be confused with the growing category of low and no alcohol wines. These are wines that are naturally lower in alcohol. So they haven't been manipulated, they haven't been twisted to make them lower in alcohol than they would naturally be. So these are naturally lower alcohol wines. The reason that I'm talking about this at the moment is because in the UK we have a new structure around wine taxation, which means that the duty that's being paid, that's the amount of tax that you pay per bottle of wine, is based on the alcohol level. So what that means is that wines with a higher alcohol level are going to incur more duty. So what I think you're going to see is an increase in more manipulated lower alcohol wines. But I want to tell you today that there is a wonderful range of wines that are naturally lower in alcohol and haven't been heavily manipulated. So everything I'm tasting today is 12.5% or lower. And I think it's a really nice selection just to give you a bit of a starter, a bit of an insight into exploring this world. For my first wine, I've selected an Alvarinho from Portugal. Now that might sound very similar to a grape variety that you know, Albaranio, and that's because they are the same grape. But Albaranio is grown in Spain predominantly. But this is from Vinho Verde, which is in the far northwestern Portugal, and it actually is right next door to Spain. That's the borderland, and the region of Galicia where you do get a lot of Albaranio grown. So it's just hopped over to the other side into Portugal, and it's a really interesting area for naturally lower alcohol wines. So Vinho Verdes tend to be in the sort of region of about 11 to 12.5%. This one comes in at 12.5%, and that's generally the upper that you'll ever find a Vinho Verde bean. So we're just going to have a little taste today and see what we think of this. Now this is just a really bright, fresh, really citrusy, very lively wine. It's just got a really kind of big citrus kick to it, basically. Lots of lemon coming through. And it's definitely got heaps of citrus, and there's also a really salty note to it too, which is really delicious as well. And it's and good acidity because my mouth is really watering. But this region, you're basically flanked on all sides by the Atlantic Ocean. So in that little tip of the Iberian peninsula, you have vast amounts of ocean surrounding you on both the northerly and westerly side. And I think that very cooling climate comes through. And that's something to be aware about of lower alcohol wines. Naturally, lower alcohol wines being the important word here, is that they're from regions that are cooler climates. So this isn't about your rich, full-bodied, big Californian oaky Chardonnays where they're getting bucket loads of gorgeous sunshine. This region gets all sorts of inclement weather, battered by rain, storms coming in off the Atlantic. So there's a kind of a natural freshness to the wines of these regions. I think that if you're looking for a lower alcohol wine and you love fresh, crisp white wines, then the wines of Vinho Verde and that area into Galicia are really good ones to look out for. For my next wine, I've selected a Riesling from the Moselle region in Germany. Now, I think Riesling is actually one of the most easily recognizable, naturally lower alcohol wines. Even when they're made to a fully dry style, they tend to only have an alcohol topping sort of 12.5%. And you can see ones with much lower alcohol levels as they tend to be sweeter. Riesling is this incredibly versatile grape. It can go from the most unctuous, sweet, beautiful wines right through to bone dry. It's a truly noble grape in my eyes, and I love Riesling. The Moselle Valley is a stunning region. It has gorgeous vertiginous vineyards, these absolutely enchanting medieval castles, picture postcard villages. It's on the western side of Germany, near the borderlands of France and Luxembourg, and it really is an absolutely magical place to visit. Now, this is made by Ernie Lucen family. So Dr. Lucen, an absolutely iconic, and I don't use that word lightly, winemaker when it comes to Riesling, especially German Riesling. It's recognised throughout the world as being an absolutely benchmark, brilliant producer. So I'm very excited to try this today. So it's called the Slate, and you have this incredible slaty soil there. So this is smelling beautiful. Got this gorgeous, lovely citrus note coming through, some white blossom, springy, fresh. Oh my God. Acidity. My mouth is watering so much. Now there is some residual sugar there, so there's a lovely sweetness to it. But because of that absolutely gorgeous acidity, it balances out perfectly, and the two sit aside each other really, really well. And I love this wine. It's peachy, it's citrus, lemon, lime. And again, that just acidity just absolutely makes me want to go in for another sip immediately, but I won't because I'm a professional. But it's beautiful. I love it. Great value for money. His wines, whenever you see that name on the label, you're in for a treat. Gamay. I love this grape. Now, its spiritual homeland is in Beaujolais, which is in eastern France. But the example that I've got to taste with you today is actually from the Loire Valley. So Gamay and Pinot Noir are two grapes that generally tend to have naturally lower levels of alcohol. But this expression from the Loire Valley is a great example. It's only 12% alcohol, and it's from a much cooler climate region. So the Loire is very marginal. Again, it gets lots of really big weather systems working through it, especially in the region where this grape is grown. This is from the Muscadet region, so we are in the far west of the Loire, so very much close to the beautiful city of Nantes, which if you ever get the opportunity to go and visit, I really recommend you do. So Nantes, though, is very close to the mouth of the Loire River, and then it gives way to the Atlantic. So you get a lot of cool climate conditions in this area. So very marginal, quite a difficult place. They make beautiful white wines. You've probably seen the Muscadet, but they are increasingly planting red grapes too, and Gamay does very well there. So I'm excited to try this. I think I'm hopefully going to love it. Smells beautiful. It's just got this very kind of bright blueberry, bright fruit, red cherry coming through. Let's have a little taste. It's just fruity. It's not overcomplicated by any means, just very easy going for the money, great value. Easy every day. In the summer months, you could chill this down slightly, it would be beautiful. And just a very soft, fruity, easygoing red. Think cherry, a little bit of pomegranate juice there. Delicious. You can't go wrong with it. We're now over in Austria, the far eastern edge of Austria, right by the Hungarian border to be precise, in the region of Burgenland. And we're tasting a delicious wine by a brilliant wine producer called Judith Beck. Now, she is really pioneering in Austrian viticulture. She took over her family farm in 2004 and converted it to being fully organic and later practicing full biodynamics. But we'll save the story about what that is for another day. She is an amazing winemaker who works with really talented up-and-coming young winemakers as well, really sharing her knowledge and passion about growing wonderful sustainable wine. Now, this is a blend of two grape varieties. We have Zweigelt and Saint Laurent. Now, in Austria, I think you get sort of naturally lower alcohol reds. Sometimes they can be definitely grown to absorb a lot more sunshine, so longer ripening periods. But Judith isn't going for that style. She's looking for something fresher and brighter, and I think that this is hopefully going to embody all of that in this glass. So let's have a little taste. And it smells delicious. You've got this kind of raspberry, red currant, cranberry note coming through, very inviting. Wow. First thing is hitting me is there is a great acidity to that. Oh, that's a tongue twister. It's got this lovely tart red fruit, so red currants, that really kind of zingy cranberry, really quite zesty wine actually, very lifeful. Now, if you prefer bigger, richer, full-bodied, sweeter reds, this maybe isn't the wine for you, but it's a really delicious, bright, enlivening, uplifting wine. That acidity is just beautiful. There's gorgeous red fruits, a little bit of a smoky edge to it too, and I love that. I'm really looking forward to having another glass, and I think it's a really great example that you get so much flavour in these wines as well. Just because it has lower alcohol does not mean that it's going to be lacking in flavour at all. In the UK especially, I think we're going to see an increase in certain lower alcohol wines. And I think a lot of those are going to be made by large producers, and they're going to be quite heavily manipulated. And this is all, as I say, because of this taxation system, which, for the record, I think is a ludicrous new system. But what I want you to do as consumers, and something that I think we should all do, is look out for wines that are naturally lower in alcohol. So you're thinking of looking for wines from those regions that are a little bit cooler, so not the baking hot sunshine. And I think also you'll see that winemakers are trying to kind of work to, you know, get the sort of still the lovely sugar and the freshness, but not having these big overblown wines. So Riesling is a great, Gamay, Pinot Noir, the wines of sort of northern Portugal, northern Spain. You get lots of that freshness coming through. And it really is something that I think you should explore, and to try and avoid perhaps the ones that look a little bit like they've been heavily manufactured, because there is a wealth of really good, naturally lower alcohol wines for you to go out and explore, and most importantly, enjoy. Cheers.